CK Elementary. It's Tuesday the 10th.
Every time I call it,
I mean, we can,
going somewhere.
but we won't set up.
Oh, yeah? But she got a treatment moved up.
We looked at
So.
several days. We take a little bit.
Okay, let's turn on the mics.
6 o'clock. You're the tech guy there.
Right.
Do I need to start the recording?
Good, how are you?
You're busy, huh?
I have been.
Okay, we ready?
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and call our regular meeting of the Wayne County Board of Education to order. It is 6 o'clock. And if you'll stand, we'll say the pledge. Juanito, you want to lead us?
Me?
Yes, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Let the record show that all board members are present in person this evening. And we'll begin with recognitions if we have any. All right, moving on to our spotlight presentation.
All right, so this is our first academic spotlight for the year, and so many of you guys may not recognize the gentleman who's here with me. This is Chase Borger, and he teaches English and math at Benson Middle School, and this is his third year in our
Third year
county.
Wayne County.
And he's a dynamo. He's fantastic. He has quickly, we've realized what a gem we've lucked into, and we've gotten him involved in both cadres, math and ELA, since he teaches both subjects. He's done some district level trainings for us on our district-wide PD days when we utilize our own people. And one of the things that he's really helped us to work with is how to effectively utilize artificial intelligence in the middle school classroom. And he actually led a session on that. He and Cheryl Smith at our August 16th district-wide day. So I asked Chase to come and kind of share a little bit of that with us tonight.
Yep, and thank you so much for introducing me, and thank you guys so much for having me today. And I'm really happy that I get to be here and teach in Wayne, and and I'm really happy you made your cell phone policy countywide recently. We already had our cell phone policy at Vincent that was just the same. This is the presentation.
Okay.
But it's one of the major reasons I love working at Vincent. Get that strong leadership, and she is on top of those cell phones. I'm so glad that we're doing that across the district. So,
We heard a lot
so-
of good, we heard a lot of good things about you when we were down there last year.
Oh,
The
that's-
kids and their projects.
Yep.
And that was it, Mr. Berger, Mr. Moore, Mr.
No.
Booker. Yeah,
He's been a great
But I really,
addition to
I
our
really enjoyed being here. I really enjoyed teaching in Vincent. And
That's great.
I'll take you guys through this. And so this is really just an abbreviated presentation of kind of what we looked at with teachers. But there are three main areas to consider in terms of AI in 2024. The student, the teacher, and the county. And it's really a night and day situation. It's black and white in terms of how probably each of these groups needs to interact with AI in the classroom. So if we take a look at the students, we can look at best practice and detection. And so that kind of hints at where we might be going with this. If we looked at some common tasks in the ELA classroom, we might say they would do an essay on literary analysis or narrative writing, maybe a research paper or creative writing, book report, poetry analysis. I think with the exception of the oral presentation, every single one of those can be done by AI instantly, like much faster than any student could do them, and probably much better than any student could do them with 99% accuracy. Yeah, it's pretty startling. As an example, the word delve is probably one of the most key things. If you take anything else out from this, delve is the most important. In the hands of students, AI is a workaround and not a tool. So looking at academic papers with the word delve in the title or abstract, from 1990 all the way to 2024, we see a huge jump in 2023, which is when ChatGPT became available to the public. So the moment that ChatGPT, the AI, was available to the public, academic papers saw a huge increase, from 4,000 all the way up to 18,000 of that delve, which rarely used. You can see it kind of trends up, but then it shoots up because ChatGPT loves the word delve. And so students were putting their paper prompts into ChatGPT and just publishing what they got. And this is at the college level, so you can only imagine high school and even lower how much that is happening. Wow. With that in mind, probably best practices is that students don't use technology when completing assignments. They don't use for written assignments. They shouldn't be using those. Just last week, my students were on the laptops, and one of them had, I don't know if it was rolling out, if it's an update, they had Copilot there on the bottom, which is Microsoft's AI. And you can go in, you click on it as a student and say, write me an essay about the outsiders. It pops right up. And so that was on their county laptop, and it's like, that's not great. Students complete all work in person. I had several students, hey, take this home, do this. Can it be typed, Mr. Borger? No, let's make it handwritten. And even today, I had students come in with their paper, and they're like, can I go get my papers? I just want to get that done. I was like, what do you mean you want to get that done? Because they're doing some research into weird sports for their informational essay, and they say, oh, I want to get that done. I typed it up, but I just want to handwrite. Yeah. Okay, sure. I don't know about that. And then students complete all digital assessments in the lockdown browser. And of course, for state testing, they do. But for in-class testing, for formative assessment where you're getting a grade on skill, it's probably just best practice. And then an additional concern, and this is probably maybe less of a student, certainly more of a school and a county concern, is students and even staff using AI to manipulate teachers and other students, right? So the case linked here was a disgruntled football coach who cloned his principal's voice and made him say racist things on that voice recording and had him suspended.
That made the national news.
Made national news, it did. But, more under the radar is, students taking pictures of teachers and doing things with those pictures using AI.
That's scary.
Oh, yeah, it's very scary. And I mean, we're talking apps that are free or very low cost, right? There's no barrier to entry here. In terms of teachers though, I think for students, I would be very cautious about using it. With teachers, I think it's a whole other story. They already have a foundation of knowledge, skills, expertise, years of experience. As a teacher's assistant, right, in terms of English, provide writing prompts, offer grading assistance, create rubrics or summarize complex texts, create personalized reading comprehension questions, offer examples of model essays and responses. I've used that one the most just because there's not a lot of those out there for the different levels, especially last year where they introduced narrative essays.
We've
And so-
implemented in the state resources. So one of the best practices for English language arts is the use of anchor texts.
Mhm.
So to be able to show students what it actually looks like to have a high level essay, maybe a medium level essay or a low level essay. And so that for a teacher, this is a resource that can help create those, and then students can see what that looks like. And for a lot of our students, that helps it really click for them when they
What
can
is a 10?
see it.
Yeah, what's a 10, what's an 8, what's a 5, 6, all the way down. And you can have the AI do it perfectly and get a 10 every time, or you can have it do it really poorly and produce a 1 or a 2, like we might see on state testing. And it can, of course, suggest new supplementary texts. Some examples, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Meta. These are all just large language models, but like I said, Windows is trying to put out Copilot, which is their own version. Right? All of them function very similarly. They produce written documents based on things that you would type in. And it's just natural language. So you don't have to format in any special way. It's not a programming thing. It's write me an essay about this. Just this week, I was reading tweet that went kind of viral on X about it, where a college professor in ethics, it was a tell us about yourself essay. And half the kids admitted to using AI for the tell us about yourself essay. So it can be anything, really. For teachers, though, one thing they do want to consider is that data privacy, and for probably a school district, we want to consider that as well. Copilot notoriously has a feature that logs everything you do the whole time you're on it. So it could be monitoring students and recording every action they take on a computer, monitoring teachers, monitoring you if you have this feature. And then bias, which is, for many of the companies, fairly liberal, and history revisionist, we'll say. So like if you were asked an image generator for World War II soldiers from Germany, they might produce a black World War II soldier from Germany. Or if you asked for founding fathers and American colonials, they're all Asian for some reason. And so you have to watch out for those biases. Although they are funny. On the county level, I think maybe there's some questions, and I think that's why I wanted to bring up the cell phone policy. I love it. Cell phones have been around for a long time, and they did a lot of, I think, damage to the classroom before it was really stamped out. And just making sure that that doesn't happen here. WV, Department of Ed, has released, right in the spring, they released their own best practices. And so in aligning with those, probably the most shocking is not using AI to search for other AI, just because it's not very good at that right now. So not using AI graders, not using AI paper checkers, because they could give false positives and lead to some academic dishonesty questions. And then move to the adoption of a district policy, if that's available, if it's possible, would be an investigation of current impact on the classroom. I know that when we've talked in the ELA cadre, every single teacher talks about kids using it and ways they try and get around it. And is this academic dishonesty, or is this, something in a gray area? And then adoption of county-approved AI for use by teachers. Personally, I use ChatGPT as kind of an assistant. And I know it's kind of blocked, kind of not by the county. Like, it's one of those things you have to override. So, I don't know if that's a tech department kind of question,
I
or
think that comes through the state firewall, so there are
So that's
certain,
questions.
there are certain websites that they get flagged, and you have to actually tell the server if you want to move forward or not.
Mhm.
So for example, some of our schools have Facebook pages, for example, right? Where they publish information for parents and communities. If you go and you're on the server, our county or the server that we use, you have to actually tell it that, yes, if you go to Facebook, you have to say, yes, this is what I intend to do. So it puts a stop in place and basically asks you, do you mean to do this? And to consider the uses. So it's sort of a stop and think about, are you going to this for an appropriate reason?
And then, in the same way that cell phones kind of have a strong policy on that, if there's a strong position on AI going forward right at the beginning of AI, rather than years later and saying, this is our position, this is where we stand, and, kind of being unified.
And the state did put out, last January, they did put out a state guidance document on artificial intelligence. And I believe they updated it I think Erica Close worked with it and updated it in the spring.
Yeah,
so-
this is the updated version, yep.
But it is
Links to it.
very,
It's thorough, it's very long, and
it's
I
thorough,
would say hands-off, kind of.
but it's also vague.
Yeah, it's very it leaves it up to the counties, really.
It's
I mean, it
very
really does.
detailed, but very,
Yeah.
so it gives you a lot of information to
Mhm.
use when making decisions.
But it doesn't,
It does not give you a lot of, do this, don't do that. I think it's probably a fair way.
Yeah.
to
I mean, even
approach that.
here, these are the takeaways from it. Schools should evaluate AI tools for bias. Strict policies are necessary to safeguard student data. It doesn't really say, should we be letting kids use this for their assignments, really? Right, and it's that workaround, it's not a tool for them. So, and for a little bit of fun, as we kind of wrap up, and you can look at this now or later, here's some Spot the AI. One of these was completed by a student, and one of them was done by AI. So, kind of what the teachers are up against.
One of the things we've talked a lot about in our cadres is, it's kind of like, as teachers, we want to say, we're not going to do it, you're not allowed to use it, that's it, end of discussion. But what we have to realize is that the point Chase makes, students have such easy access to these materials that rather than bury our heads in the sand and say the answer is no, 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 we have to understand they can access these easily. And students are smart, kids are smart. This is something that makes their lives easier. So what we have to do as educators is find a way to give reasonable guidelines, right? And how do we use this as a tool which can impact education in a positive way rather than saying the answer is no in the discussion, when it's gonna happen anyway.
Well, and two, it's, you know, it's different from cell phones. It's not physical. It can be accessed on the computer from any, any computer. There's no barrier to entry. It doesn't, many of them don't cost anything. So many of them are free for public users and for a certain number of generations and things. So whereas like, you say the cell phone, there's still, it can be taken away or it can be, kind of mitigated in some ways. But yeah, it's kind of channeling that, you're right.
Question.
Sure.
Thinking about, if I was in high school trying to game the system, I would get online, assuming I have computer expertise at age 16, I do that. And I get that, and then I would incorporate it in what I was writing.
Yep.
Change just a little bit. I mean, I was sitting here listening to this. 3 months ago, I was at a legal seminar, and I think it was in New York State. A lawyer got into big trouble, basically an appellate brief that he submitted. It turned out AI had drafted the thing, and the way it got detected, it invented cases.
Oh, yeah, and AI will do that.
So it's
Cases that didn't
Yeah.
exist. And I think
It's
that got lost.
plagiarism.
I believe it,
Really.
yeah.
It's another form of plagiarism, but you do have
Yeah.
to check the work that it generates. So in one of our sessions, we go to those WVASA trainings, and so when Erica Close rolled out the first AI session, which was January of 2024, she showed, she had gone on and basically had, I think it was DALL-E, which is one of the AI tools that can also generate images, and so she had asked it to basically create an alternate version of the West Virginia seal, like we sometimes might do in West Virginia history with 8th graders. And it looked great until you started reading what it had and the wording around the seal, and there were like 2 misspelled words.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing. AI, as incredible of a tool as it can be, it's not, it is fallible.
Oh, yeah.
So there are mistakes, just like the making up case studies.
But if the student really gained the system, wouldn't it be horribly hard to detect?
It is quite hard to detect, and one of the ways that college professors are talking about is like with Delve, is there's a whole list of words that are rarely used, and smarter people than me have plotted them out and said, I don't even accept things that have like Delve in them anymore. I don't accept them that have, labyrinthian is one of the ones that comes up, and you're like, how often do I write that? Not often. But suddenly my 8th grader essay it has labyrinthian emotions. So, but yeah, and I backed it in the corner before, and it's generated new poems by authors, well-established authors. Like, oh yeah, that poem is like this, and here's the text for you. And I'm like, that was, are you sure? And it's like, yeah, that's a real poem.
Well, there is a school it's a private school in, I want to say Texas, and they are using artificial intelligence to actually drive courses for students. And what they've done is created instructors where they have taken and fed into the software to create the algorithm to actually have courses taught by Nicholas Tesla and George Washington and Martin Luther King Jr. And
that's one of those great uses of AI that teachers, you can really implement that. And even
they're
in our
also
training,
using
we
it
talk
to
about
replace human teachers.
But
So
they
then
are.
There's that question of, like, it's just, there are so many questions that we can't answer now, but we also know that we can't bury our heads in the sand and just say to kids, the answer is no, because
It's
an
coming and it's
uphill
gonna
battle.
be as quick or faster than cell phone adoption, really.
yes.
I mean, it's because every big company's trying to put it into their products.
Yeah.
and the kids are exposed to it, you know, even your basic Google searches now are giving you AI answers. You know, whether you're using Google or Bing, and that first thing that magically pops up is an AI overview of the search results. So, I mean, it's definitely there. It's definitely something to be looked at and to be polled and inspected and, you know, have some clarity for teachers and students and everybody.
Yes.
So we're
Yeah, it's in
supposed to
Texas.
figure out which one's
If you
AI.
can, yeah, if you can.
You figured it out, Randy?
So I have the news clip that was done where they actually interviewed the administrators of the Texas
Oh, yeah.
private school, which traded out teachers for AI-based historical figures that I can forward to you guys, but we can look at a really quick, if we have time, little clip of that.
And like I said, for teachers, that's an excellent, wonderful use. Even having the kids program it, it's great. You know, they're putting in their research, they're putting it out there.
If it's still, here we go. Oh, we're gonna have to set through
I think it's muted.
the advertisement, of course,
Chosen for us by AI, no doubt.
no doubt.
We combine cutting-edge learning science with generative AI to create a learning experience which is truly unlimited.
Welcome to the future of education.
Welcome to teaching school, where we are the teachers.
All right, new school, Alpha Private School in Austin, Texas, where kids will not learn from your typical teacher in a classroom. They're going to learn math from Albert Einstein, civil rights, just watch, from Martin Luther King.
Science explains the world, and math is more than just numbers. We believe that education should adapt to every student's unique needs and interests.
You know, so Alpha School believes that kids can learn the core subjects by working one-on-one with an AI instructor on each core subject for 2 hours a day. And this brings up a lot of questions. Primarily, who is programming the AI? Because obviously they have
The question we're
bias,
talking
yeah.
about,
You don't
right?
necessarily know how they're going to respond to questions. Co-founder of Alpha School, Mackenzie Price, is with us now. All right, so how
So
old
I
are these?
won't go on. I'll send this to you guys so that you can look at it when you have more time. But it just gives you a taste of what we're facing in education and the importance of really educating ourselves and looking at how do we use this as, you know, basically as a tool to better education. And one of the things that we have to do is realize that it's here and our students have access. And, you know, we have to really think about responsible uses. And so one of the things that Chase has done with our ELA cadre is look at how to submit a rubric based on our standards, a writing rubric, and then you can actually utilize artificial intelligence to help you look for ways to provide meaningful feedback to student writing. So there are lots of responsible ways that teachers can use it to better our craft. But with it, as always, there are just lots of questions and it's a lot of unknown at this point, but it's a big topic in education right now.
It is, yeah.
Everywhere, and in Wayne County. Do you guys have any questions?
Anyone?
Chase, thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
He's a heck of a robotics coach too.
Now the kids do all the work.
They do the heavy lifting, that's how it should be.
Have to have a leader.
Right, we appreciate it. All right,
I'm gonna grab our mic back.
we'll move on to our good news section. Pinnacle Award for Wayne County Schools and CTE. Saw that information, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, so the state CTE conference was last week, and the state presented what's called the Pinnacle Award, and it's for the top CTE program, and they break the districts up into classes, kind of like athletics. There's 4 classes. We are in the large class district, class 4. And the Pinnacle Award was determined by the districts with the highest scores on the state CT indicator scorecard. And if you remember, Mr. Miller was here to present those at towards the end of the year. The award is given for 4 classes. Wayne, as I mentioned before, we're in District 4. The indicators that they look at are middle school participants in CTE, the number of high school participants in CTE, high school concentrators, high school completers, percentage of students passing their NOCTI exam based on their program of study, work-based learning and internship programs, and the percentage of teachers who are properly endorsed. And after considering all those factors, Wayne County Schools received the Pinnacle Award for the largest division, Division 4. So we're very proud of our CTE folks and all the folks that were involved in hitting all of those indicators and bringing in such a good score for the district. So quite an accomplishment from them. So they were presented with this plaque. Now, it's my understanding they're replacing this plaque. There was some kind of issue with the wording that they didn't like. So they were replacing the plaque, but they were presented with this plaque up at the CTE conference. So very, very good accomplishment.
Just think that used to be vocational education.
Mhm.
And people just kind of look down on the vocational education students, you know?
I didn't know.
They did.
That's good.
It's great.
All right, informational items, regular board meeting Tuesday, September 24th at 6 p.m. here in the conference room. Regular meeting on Tuesday, October 8th, beginning at 5:30 at Spring Valley High School. No school for students on Friday, October the 4th. That's Professional Learning Day. Fall break, no school on Friday, October 11th, and Monday, October 14th. And we're back here, regular meeting on Tuesday, October 22nd, 6 p.m. at Tulsa High School. Any problems or conflicts with those dates?
I think on the other hand, we had that meeting on October 22 here.
No, another one.
What is it?
It was, that in the Spring Valley when we moved to do our student recognition. So every fall, we do the feeder schools and we do those student recognitions for students who exceed standards in the GSA or the SAT school day.
Right.
And we do the feeder schools, as well as the high school at each high school location.
Gotcha.
And so that's where the change in location came from.
Yeah.
We have the
So-
LSIC meetings also. there.
Yeah, in your extra packet, there's a new chart that shows all the meetings that are scheduled for the year because I've got a draft LSIC schedule for you.
Okay.
And that's what Randy was pointing out on that draft. They haven't changed the location of that meeting to Tulsa High School. So what's in your agenda is correct.
Okay. Construction project updates?
Yeah, so real quickly, Sarita Canova Elementary School, the MIP project there. And again, that's getting that basement ready with fire suppression to make it where we can have students and staff be able to use the lower level of the gym. We meet with the HVAC engineers this week. We met with the architects last week. We're scheduled for a meeting with the HVAC engineers and the school building authority this week. The Wayne Elementary School Major Improvement Project is underway. There's been paving work that's been completed down at the school to increase the number of parking spaces on the portion of the campus that's not being worked on. And then they have begun staging for the actual construction work for the classroom addition.
Okay.
So if you're down that way, you will see the new parking, and then you will also see the fencing that's been put up, and you'll see where they're staging there for the addition of the rooms.
Questions?
We are at substantial completion on our multi-school HVAC project, our Wayne Elementary School HVAC project, and the control work is ongoing on those projects and getting everything finalized, but we're at a pretty good place right now. Obviously, with school open, everything is working. They're just fine tuning. Those systems will actually have the multi-school HVAC project. They're under like a 2-year warranty where everything will be monitored for 2 years by the contractors. And so that's a positive thing. And then the Vincent Middle School, we're doing some insurance repair work to a press box down there. Our insurance company had identified some deficiencies with that press box. That's the press box at the baseball field. That work is underway. I think they have the roof torn off of it, and we're getting ready to replace the roof down there. And then the final thing we've got going on right this second is that the Crum football lights, as you are aware, we had installed the football lights at Fort Gay. They're up and active. At Crum, the lights are up, all the wiring's been pulled, and the electrical panels are being set. The power company will be coming in here probably in the next week or so and getting those active for use down at Crum.
Okay.
And that's all I have right now.
All right. I don't think we have any delegations this evening. I can see you. Superintendent report.
Yeah, just a few reports in your folder.
Yes.
We have an enrollment report, the student enrollment by school. And you're going to have a comparison there from 2024 to 2025. And again, at the very top, it says student enrollment by school. You're going to see that our elementary school enrollment is actually up 8 students overall as the district. Of course, there's varying numbers at schools. Our largest drop was at Dunlow Elementary. Our second largest drop was at Pritchard. And again, a lot of times this is tied to 5th graders leaving, and then how big is the next group that you have coming in. And then at the middle school level, you'll see that we're actually up 5 there. Now, the reason that we're up 5 there was because there was a significant increase at Buffalo Middle. The reason that there was a significant increase there is they had an extremely small 8th grade population. So you're going to see the effects of that when we look down at Spring Valley.
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, that particular grade level, as it came up through our system, up through elementary and into the middle school level, was just extreme. It was extremely small group. And so they're back up to normal now. So you see that significant increase there.
Wayne Middle lost quite a few.
Yeah, lost 21 overall.
21.
And again, a lot of this is tied to just 8th graders moving on to the high school,
Right.
and then your 6th grade group not being as
Smaller
big.
classes.
Our pre-K through 8 schools, you saw a significant bump at Crum pre-K through 8. A portion of that was from Dunlow. We had a number of kids that transferred over to Crum from
Oh,
Dunlow.
wow.
They're up 26. And then at the high school level, Wayne High was down 41. Spring Valley was down 35. And again, they have multiple feeder schools, but that 8th grade group coming in from Buffalo was small. I think they would have probably broken about even if that would have been a normal size group. Tulsa High School is actually up 9 in enrollment. So again, these are preliminary numbers. None of these numbers count until October 1st. That's the second month count. That's the official number. But as of right now, we're down 62 for the year. Now, the bad news is that's a decrease in enrollment. If you want to look at the bright side of that, that is the smallest decrease of enrollment that we've had at least in the last 7 years. I think the smallest amount before that was like 75. So
Yeah.
not quite the hit that we see in some years. So now, in addition to that, looking at our homeschooling numbers, our homeschooling numbers stand at about 473. So we had quite a few kids come back. We were up over 500 last year. That number's dropped to 473. Some of that is graduations of homeschoolers moving on from the system, and then we had some that returned to the regular school setting.
Yeah.
Our Hope Scholarship numbers stand at 212. There's 212 students overall that are on the Hope Scholarship.
How many homeschool do we have?
473. Now, if you put those two populations together, that's a significant that's a significant number of students that are not in the public school system. Okay, the next thing in your packet is our staff to student ratios. So up at the very top, it says 2024, 2025 Wayne County School staff to student ratios. This is a breakdown of professional and service personnel that are assigned to each building. And then we include the student enrollment numbers in the third column over. And then we give you the ratio of professional personnel, the number of students to each professional personnel, and the number of students to each service personnel that's assigned to the building. And again, these are based off of preliminary enrollment numbers, so these numbers could change. But you'll see that our average ratio at the elementary school level is 13.23 students per professional personnel. It's actually at 16.45 students for each service personnel. Middle school, slightly higher on the professional side, 14.09 kids to each professional person. Service jumps to 26.43 students for each service person. Of course, our pre-K through 8 schools, that includes both elementary and middle school age. You'll see there that they're at 11.75 and 18.24. And then our high schools, 12.40, and then 33.36 on the service personnel side. So a little bit surprising that the high schools are, yeah, a little bit of a lower amount on the professional side. And then you see the overall ratios for the district, approximately 12.92 students for every professional person, and then about 21.42 for every service person. And when we get the official numbers on October 1st, the state will give us some numbers to compare these
Don't
two.
you think that could affect how successful we've been and our numbers as far as state rankings and stuff like that?
Yeah,
The lower.
yeah, there's definitely,
the student ratio, the better attention they get, you know.
yeah, I think the research would bear out that there's definitely a sweet spot with the size of the classes and how many students are assigned to a teacher. There's definitely a sweet spot, but it's not one of the major indicators for academic achievement, but it is an indicator. It does have an effect. It doesn't have the most significant impact. And of course, you can see on that. Yeah, it does help. And of course, the trend you're going to see when you look at this is the larger the school, the larger the ratio is going to be.
Right.
So for example, our largest elementary school is Sarita Canova Elementary School. And you'll see that they have the highest ratio of students to each professional personnel at 16.59.
Yeah.
Buffalo Elementary School is one of our larger elementary schools. It's highest on the service side. Now you might ask, why is that? There's more special ed classrooms at Sarita Canova Elementary, so we have quite a few more aides there. So that's what drops that number. If you look at your high schools, of course, Spring Valley's the largest there, and that shows up in the ratios as well. And of course, at our smallest schools, which are Dunlow and Genoa, those are the only schools that are in single digits on those ratios. 6.75 for the professional for Dunlow, 7.29 for Genoa. Now, what these numbers don't include is itinerant personnel that work at multiple schools.
Okay.
They weren't included in this. These are personnel that are assigned to these buildings full time.
Yeah.
There's no traveling teachers that are accounted for in here. Okay, so I just wanted to share those numbers with you.
Okay.
Now, as we move forward, in the fall, we began planning for personnel season, for RIF and transfer season. And, I know multiple times we've looked at the impact of the personnel cost upon the budget. So we're going to have to consider where our next round of cuts come from. And so when we did cuts last year, we cut approximately 35 professional positions. And on the service side, we actually went up in the number of positions that we have because we added the second grade ECATs.
Yeah.
So there's approximately, I don't know, it's like 18 or 19 positions that were added ECATs. That will happen again this coming year. The ECATs will be moving to third grade as well. So we're focused on that professional number, and really we need that number. We can sustain a number that's over formula, but we need that number as close to 20 as we can get it. And I think with a decrease of 60 students in our enrollment, if that number holds, of course, that's going to drive up our numbers that we're over formula. I still think that we're going to probably be around the 40 mark as far as positions over formula go. So we're going to have to consider options there and how to possibly decrease those number of positions. I know that the staff at Dunlow and Genoa, they're always concerned about their schools because of those numbers. When you look at their enrollment numbers.
Those are low numbers.
Yeah. And I think Genoa today, we ran these off last week, and I think Genoa stands at 49 right now. And they were below 50 last year. But Dunlow has solidly been in the 80s, but we had a number of students that went over to Crum. I think one of the things that we hear from them, they have to operate split classrooms because they just have such a low population at each grade level. At some grade levels, they have to combine. And some of the concern, I think, from parents there is about those split classrooms and how effective they are. They can be done effectively, but that's always a concern if your child's going to be in a split classroom. So that's another reason that they've had some difficulty. But with the number of positions that we're over formula, we can't put teachers down there for 5 kids at a grade level.
My kids were in split classrooms at Crockett.
I
We
went
had
to
you all the time.
one room school.
I knew Dennis would bring up the one room school.
I had the 4, buddy. We know what you did. You went to that one room school
I did.
with 8 grades.
I was sophisticated. I went to 2 room school.
I did too.
It had 6 grades. After that, we went to Lane Elementary. We called it Lane graded then.
I know what.
Out of that bunch, we've had I don't know how many teachers and college graduates, and whatever. I don't see it's a problem myself.
I don't either. And I think you can always find something wrong with something good, but a lot of times with kids, when they're in a group with the older ones, they're learning more than just being in a class by themselves, especially if they're
The kids can explain,
smarter and they're picking it
and
up,
I read years ago
instead of being bored, they're learning more.
where Chicago did this big study, and they went to what they call peer teaching, where they use the old one room school concept with the better kids teaching the younger ones and like. Kids can explain it better to other kids than adults can, because you have this difference in language, I guess, I don't know, concepts, but I don't see any problem with that myself.
So anyway, as we go further here over the next couple of weeks, we're looking closely at the numbers, the enrollment numbers at each school, and seeing, where we can make some adjustments for next year. So
Well, aren't a lot of those kids going to Louisa too, to that school?
I don't think so.
I think some of them are, because I
Could
know,
be.
yeah, I've got a little girl a little girl boy that comes from Ludlow to Sunday school. She's there in my
You know what?
class, and I know they go to the,
I think we've lost a few kids out of
Christian school,
Fort Gay.
yeah. and-
You know,
and
right across the
they go-
river.
They were supposed to go to Dunlow, but they have changed to
To Louise.
the Christian school, I think it is, private Christian school in Louisa.
So the big thing that we've got to do is keep putting our best foot forward and getting the story out about the good things that are happening at the school and about the achievement levels. And I met with a group of parents last week as Tony Dale's group, the parent liaisons from the
Family
schools.
engagement.
And you know, one of the things I'll often ask is, you know, how do you think we fare when compared to the other 55 school districts with achievement? The predictions and like when I first started working here, even talking to the staff, the predictions from the staff have us a lot lower than where we are.
Mhm.
And so we've got a lot of folks that just don't know how good they are and how good of a job they do.
That's true.
And so, you know, when we share that those numbers have us up in the top 20 and are historically good for the county.
The State Department certainly recognizes that because our county is often recognized at the state level for the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And they often will send other counties to us for support and feedback and.
So getting that word out
Feel proud.
and then supporting these extracurricular programs, you know, the lights on the football field at Fort Gay and Crum. I mean, those
Gonna
things,
help.
those things are important to families.
Right.
And, you know, it's not part of our primary mission, but there's no doubt that those things are important. You know, we've started the robotics program to try to give kids opportunities. So
Exactly.
we've just got to continue to do things like that. So,
Now, you know those athletics are important.
yeah.
Let's just be honest.
They help.
That helps.
So we'll continue that discussion later, but
Okay.
I just wanted to provide you those numbers. And again, those do not,
Thank you.
itinerant employees aren't factored in there. So when we see the state numbers, they will be factored in there. So we'll see how they compare. Next up on the agenda is the Employee Assistance Program. In your attachments that came with your agenda, there was a brochure in there. We've had employee assistance in place for a couple of years. We're just going to do a better job of communicating that. And so we've talked to some different providers. There's Oasis Behavioral Health, there's Ohio Valley Physicians, and Huntington Behavioral Health. These organizations all work with us. We've talked to you about our threat assessment process before, and that if a kid makes a threat and we have concerns about the kid's mental health status, we've contracted with providers to help do nationally recognized assessments to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for that student and to keep the school safe. And so in addition, we have signed on with these providers to provide assistance to our employees as well. And this is at no cost to the district. Our insurance covers the type of services that are mentioned here. But, you know, whether it's somebody that's just going through a trauma in their family, you know, just going through a life crisis situation, or, you know, could even be substance abuse, that type of thing. If anybody's struggling with any type of issue, they can take advantage of these services. And again, it's confidential. We don't have the information, and we have had folks over the last few years that have taken advantage. So we're going to put this out so to get the awareness of the program out a little bit more.
That's good.
Any questions regarding that?
I think it's a good time.
Also in your agenda, or I'm sorry, in the separate folder that we provided you this evening, after those ratios are a tentative schedule for our LSIC presentations and facility reviews. And again, we had agreed that we would combine these.
Right.
So I was looking at times of 4:00 and 5:15 PM on these particular nights. And to do a quick meeting at each school to get an update on their academic progress and their needs, and for us to be to do any facility visits that we need to do.
Well, last couple of years, our meetings have been shorter
Right,
Yeah.
because a lot of their
The needs are-
facilities were taken care
right,
of.
the needs are less.
And it was really more about the academics finding out what was going on, but
You
some
can't
schools,
do
they'll say,
anything
no,
unless
you
you
can go
know
look
about
at the
it.
school if you want to, but we're fine.
Yeah.
So,
So I think those will work.
I think that'll work.
I think it gives the personnel and the parents a better idea that, we're there for them too.
Exactly.
So this is a draft. If
Okay.
you have any issues with any of the dates, I'm gonna provide this to the principals tomorrow to check their school schedules as well. So we might need to switch some things
Yeah.
around, but I wanted to get that in your hands for you to
Appreciate
look
that,
at.
'cause when the meeting started, I was entering them all on this, and it looked like, I didn't find any issues with my calendar.
Okay, don't
Yeah.
touch it, Tom.
All right, gotcha.
That's good.
The, speaking of trying to put our best foot forward and to keep our enrollment numbers up, on our website, I'm going to direct your attention to the screen. The legislature in the last year or two created the open enrollment process. So if you'll remember in the past, if a student was going to transfer from one county to another,
Mhm.
both boards of education had to approve that transfer.
Yeah.
So the open enrollment process was created by the legislature, and all that, what's required now is that the receiving district approve the transfer. So the sending district doesn't have to approve it, just the receiving district. Even within districts, even within counties, if a student wants to enroll in another school, they have the ability to do that. And there are specific reasons why they couldn't. If it creates a overload in the classroom, which would require the
Sure.
district to hire additional personnel, then it can be denied at that point. If there are services there that the student needs that aren't at that particular school, it can be denied at that point. But other than that, they get to come. And so this is on our webpage now. It's under the family section. No, you're good. It's under the families and students section. So this gives parents access to the open enrollment form. The legislation requires that we specify an open enrollment period. We've established that as June 1st through August 15th of each year. So that's leading into the school year, but we do make note here that we will accept applications at any point during the calendar year. That's our open enrollment period, but we do accept applications at all other times. It does mention that that we do accept out-of-state applications, but possible tuition charges may apply if it's an out-of-state student. And then the link for the enrollment form is here. Tanya, if you want to hit that. And then we simply have the new transfer or enrollment form, transfer request form is online for parents to be able to complete and deliver to the school that they want to attend.
Now, who approves that?
That the legislature requires that the superintendent approve it or deny any transfer, whether it's in district or out of district. The superintendent has to approve it or deny it. And if I deny it, they have an appeal right to this board. And if it's an out-of-county student, they have an appeal right to the State Department of Education.
Okay.
So there's specific forms that we have to fill out. If it's denied, we have to provide them in writing the reasons that it was denied, and then they have those appeal processes.
Well, the reason I asked, because used to, those had to be board approved.
Yeah.
So now they don't have to.
Yeah, with the open enrollment, they don't have to be.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention that our School Safety Week is this week, and so we have crisis drills that are going on across the district at all schools. All schools are scheduled to have a crisis drill this week, that will include active shooter drills. At the elementary level, we don't necessarily use those terms. Yeah, lockdowns or evacuations, just to relieve students' anxiety. But we do have those type of drills going on all this week. Law enforcement often participates in those drills with our schools. I know CK Middle School had a drill, and law enforcement participated in that. I think at CK Elementary, they're really good to participate.
Yeah, they're gonna be there, I think, Thursday.
And then our 3 school resource officers are aware of when those drills are, and they also go around and help monitor those and make recommendations. So that's going on all this week. And then finally, the balance scorecard for the district is scheduled to be released by the State Department of Education tomorrow. And of course, that'll be all 55 districts that are released tomorrow. There will be balanced scorecards for the district and for the individual schools that are released. So at our next meeting in September, Nikki will attend the next meeting and present the balanced scorecard results to us. We've already seen the GSA results. We kind of know where they stand. And so it'll just show how that scorecard reflects those GSA scores. That's all I have.
Okay. Okay, board directives or board reports, I don't think we have any. Nope. Unfinished business, consider for approval the superintendent board goals for 2024-2025 school year.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Johnita, second by Dennis. Questions or concerns on those goals?
So at the last board meeting, we presented the goals, and there was some feedback that was given, and we wanted to include the creation of a cadre
Right.
for special education. They had their second meeting. They actually met back in July. We had our second meeting this evening where they teachers weighed in on the plans that we presented to you, the action plan to address the annual desk audit from the Office of Special Education. Some really good ideas came out. That meeting was this evening prior to this board meeting, and teachers really had some good ideas on some things that we can do to take some steps forward. So that was a good step. So that language has been changed in goal number 4 to reflect what we discussed about previously.
Yeah.
So if we're good, they're good.
What's the frequency on that meeting that they're doing? Or-
We usually do those like once every 9 weeks, which would be once a quarter, 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay. That's good.
And again, this was already their second meeting, so they'll probably be on that 9 weeks mark.
All right. Any other questions or concerns on those board and superintendent goals? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. New business consent action. The superintendent recommends approval of the following action items. Additional items received prior to the time of the meeting may be added. Discussion and/or separate action of items may be requested by members of the board and/or the superintendent. Number 1 is consider for approval the recommended personnel matters, pages 1 through 5.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Johnita, second.
Second.
Second by Randy. Any questions or concerns on those personnel matters?
Those 21st century after school tutors, those are funded by a state grant, and that actually comes through Playmates. Playmates is the recipient of that grant. They run the after school program at a majority of the locations, and that money is funneled through the district to the employees that are being hired on here, and there's a number of positions. It's a
good.
pretty significant program.
Now, do you have a name on page 5 for one that coach?
No, we did not.
Okay,
We did not get a name submitted,
Okay, so good.
and I'm glad you said that. I did have one change I wanted to make.
Okay,
It's just on an effective date.
you got it.
Let me find it.
Okay.
Okay, it's clear back on page 1. The second name down under employment, the Ryan Fisher,
Yes.
Technology Systems Specialist. We're actually going to get him started tomorrow, September 11th.
Got it. So it is revised.
Shorthanded, and they want to get him started as soon as possible.
Okay.
As revised. Any other questions, concerns on personnel matters as revised?
There's an ECAP position here being created for CK Elementary. CK's enrollment continues to, yeah. They continue to do well with their enrollment, and we have a caseload there that was generating the need for another ECAP.
All right. No other questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 2, consider for approval the purchase requisition order and quotes in excess of $5,000 on page 16 through 6 through 16.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Dennis, second,
Second.
Jonita. Questions or concerns on those purchase requisitions? On page, I just had one on page 6. I'm assuming that these new ThinkPads are just replacing old technology.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Page 12 on the virtual academy. Do we have someone in the Wayne County school system that has access to the curriculum that can actually go into those classrooms or something?
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. So you remember at the last meeting that we talked about the invoicing from other districts?
Yeah.
The West Virginia Virtual Academy is a standalone school. It's one of the charter schools that were created. So they invoiced us for 3 students that they provided services to that were Wayne County students last year. So those students were on our roster on October 1st and left us sometime after that and enrolled in the virtual academy. And so, no, it's like a whole separate school system. We don't have any access to that. Now, we are sending them an invoice as well.
Okay.
There was one student who was enrolled in the virtual academy at the 2nd month mark that enrolled in Wayne County schools at a later date. So we'll be invoicing them as well. So some of this money will come back to us.
So the students that we're being invoiced for left us to go there. So we have no need to know what their curriculum is.
No
They're not ours.
ability to. They're not our students anymore.
Not ours.
Yeah. But I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot that one, that specific one was in there, but that's related to that invoicing that we talked about at the last meeting.
That's strange though. They can take them, we don't have any say. But then when they get them to leave school, become a disciplinary problem, or they want to kick them out, or their attendance problems, it falls back on the county, right?
Right.
Well, they can, but
They can be last week.
yeah, they can
Come back.
they can withdraw them, but if they come back, we get an invoice for those
Yeah.
positions.
We still get to.
I thought I read somewhere where they,
But that's a
one
lot
of
of work for all
those
the
charter
counties.
schools up north
Don't you?
was going back to the county attendance people to help with getting them back in their school.
I've heard some concerns from our attendance department that the communication isn't always clear about whether a student has been disenrolled. We're not allowed to disenroll a student.
Right.
We have to have a records request from another school system. If you don't, you have to keep them on your books, and that's a good procedure because you don't want to lose track of somebody.
Right.
And I think in some of these situations with some of the new schools that have been created, I don't think that that's always happening. I think that they're getting disenrolled, and sometimes it's weeks before the counties know it. And there's some instructional time lost
It
there.
seems to me that these entities get all the cream and none of the buttermilk, you know what I mean? It's all, it all comes back to us.
And then on page 13 with Kristen Oxley, that's
She's the one
with
that's
our math initiative, right?
correct.
Okay. Obviously, that's been working. We see improvement in our numbers, so that's good.
Page 9, what are those 36 10-pack high school student pack? What is that?
All of that.
This is these are textbook materials, for lack of a better term. These are student packs for a prevention program. So it's related to drug prevention.
Okay.
So there's teachers' manuals included in that. So they're doing a prevention program down there, and it could be drugs, it could be vaping, could be alcohol, but they're doing a prevention programming, and these are the resource materials.
These done too.
And again, it's noted on here that that's from the expanded school mental health fund. So that was a grant that we had acquired through DHHR. We actually received about $300,000 from them to implement prevention activities. And that's actually tied to something that's coming up next on our agenda. So I'll save it for when we get there.
All right. Any other questions or concerns?
Oh, excuse me.
All right, none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. New business, separate action items. Consider for approval the contract between Wayne County Board of Education and Mountain State Educational Service Cooperative for a grant-funded mental health grant facilitator for the 24-25 school year.
Motion.
Motion by Randy, second
Second.
Dennis.
We have spoke about this position previously, and we said that we was going to have Mountain State post that. The advantage to having Mountain State post that is it's an at-will position. The grant, we've received notice that we'll receive about $300,000 in grant funds, but they have the right to stop the grant at any point. And so this position is completely grant funded. So what this person will be charged with is helping us do comprehensive prevention planning, specifically around vaping, but also around drug use as well. And so that impact will be felt. It should be felt at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school level. But that person will work under Bradley Jordan and will be responsible for that.
That'll also eliminate them from being able to go through all these appeals and stuff and being cut, like when you.
Yeah, I mean, when they work with, since they're not a direct employee, you don't wait for RIF and transfer season and all that. We have the ability to treat them as an at-will employee.
Funding goes.
Yeah, the position goes, yeah. So it's, I'm excited to see what work comes out of this. I mentioned before, but that grant is approximately $300,000. In addition to that, we had entered into that lawsuit against Joel because of the impacts of the vaping and some of the financial burden that was putting on the district with vape detectors and things like that, even though we were lucky to secure grants to do most of that work. But we just received another $23,000 check from that particular lawsuit. So now that money, we're obligated to the court to use that money for prevention programming. So that's the resources that will be utilized in addition to the grant.
That's good.
It's good they do that because they've had some class action over the years. The government get the money, they can spend it
However they want.
however they want and not on
Yeah.
the problem.
Right.
Whatever was politically feasible at the time or advantageous.
All right. 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 All right All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 2, consider for approval the job description for extended learning tutor. This is a supplemental position.
So this mirrors those 21st century after-school tutors. There will only be one position posted, and it'll be for Wayne High School. And so if you remember back in late spring, and Mark, you weren't around for the discussion, but what we talked about is we're trying to revamp our homebound services to get our costs down.
Yeah.
And so we're setting up locations out at the 3 high schools for students that are on homebound who need academic services, who can actually get out of the house.
Yeah.
They will report to these locations. And so that's what this is set up for, is to provide services to homebound students, to provide services to students who are enrolled in our virtual program,
Yeah.
and then generally for any student who needs academic tutoring. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those 21st century positions at the other 2 schools because they're grant funded. That grant covers the type of activities we're talking about. That grant will pay for those positions. Wayne High School does not have one of those positions, so this will give us those services for this end of the county.
Great.
Well, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Dennis, second,
Second.
Johnny.
Excuse me.
Any other questions or concerns on that position? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 3, consider for approval the adoption of policies 2370, 2371.1, and 3120, 3121, 4120, and 5136.
So all of these have been on public comment.
That's what I was gonna ask.
The comments are located in your folders.
Okay. How many did we get?
Most ever.
How many?
I think there's about 4 comments.
Okay.
Didn't create a big buzz.
How many comments you have there, Randy?
I think I've got 4. They're commenting on different policies.
Okay, so for some reason I'm missing one of the comments, but I see Missy has it, so I just wanted to make sure you guys had it. I've already read it. It's 2371.1.
That's the first one. Okay.
Which policy are they talking about the seniority?
Okay, so I can explain
Good.
that.
You're up.
Let's just take a second and go through these
Okay, that's fine.
policies that are up for approval.
Yeah.
And I just want to give you the reason behind each of these
Yeah.
policies being edited. So the first policy is 2370, the alternative delivery of educational programs.
Yes.
We have added language to that policy that makes it clear that students will not be discriminated against that want to participate in extracurricular activities that have special needs.
Okay.
Okay. And specifically 504 students that want to participate in educational programs. This was the Office of Civil Rights asked us to make this change. That's why that language is there.
Okay.
The second policy is the educational service provider under the Hope Scholarship Program.
Yeah.
That is one of the comments that you received, the email from the lady. And she called me with concerns after the 10-day comment period had closed. And I told her that if she would provide me an email, I would
Right.
share that email with the board. So we kind of extended the comment period there. But the purpose of that program, and again, this mirrors a policy from Kanawha County that allows us, if a student's on the Hope Scholarship, that allows us to ask to be reimbursed if the student's taking a class or if the student's participating in an extracurricular program, that type of thing.
Is that 2371.1?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, policy.
Good idea.
Policy 3120
120.
3120 is professional staff, employment of professional personnel. So the only change that we made there was to say that if a staff member tried to withdraw their bid after the posting period, that you're only allowed to withdraw your bid during the posting
During the
period.
post.
And so that was the change in language there. That's the same for the employment of service personnel policy 4120.
Yep.
To Johnita's point, we received some comments regarding those policies, and it wasn't related to the change that was made.
Okay.
I know exactly what the comments are referring to. A few years ago, the legislature, there were some changes in the service personnel code. And what it said was it's not just seniority, but you can also consider past performance, and you can consider credentials.
It came up again this past session and didn't get out of education committee.
And so I think with that language in the policy, that's what generated the topic. But again, that wasn't,
That had nothing-
that
right.
it had nothing to do with
No.
the change that was being made. That's old policy. So even if you voted that policy down tonight, that language is still there.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Okay.
And then
That's
the criminal policy 3121 is the criminal history record check. That policy just had specific language about fingerprints, and our current background check process for service personnel and volunteers does not require actual fingerprints.
Right.
So it removes the fingerprint language from that policy, just to be correct with the procedure that we're currently using. And then finally, we have the cell phone utilization policy. Interestingly enough, I thought we would
I
generate
thought
some
we'd get
comments about
from
it.
That comment on that policy was very, very true.
that. Which
Yeah.
one?
The last comment.
We did get a comment on it. It just wasn't critical of the
right.
policy. So I'll give you a minute. I especially want you to read the Hope Scholarship,
Right.
the 2371.1.
Okay, hold on.
I would,
Well,
I wanted to make a suggestion. On 2371.1,
Yes.
the language reads, a rate of 1/7 of the annual scholarship amount will be charged for each course and or each extracurricular activity. Okay, so when we got the comments about the policy, I went and reviewed the policy online, and I found a problem with the policy that was posted online. There were some words that were left out, specifically extracurricular activity. Okay, so the one that we approved had the words in there. When it got posted for public comment, somehow a few words got deleted out. So I was going to recommend to you tonight, I think that I just want to be clear with this since this involves charging a fee. I was going to recommend tonight that we put it back out for 10-day comment with the exact, now the version that you saw before, again, I went back and checked, was 100% accurate. For whatever reason, when it got posted, somehow that extracurricular word got deleted out. So I think we just need to be clear since there's a fee charged. But I would also, after receiving this comment, I would also recommend in that same sentence, where it says a rate of 1/7 of the annual scholarship amount. I think the change I would recommend saying a rate not to exceed 1/7 of the annual scholarship amount will be charged. That gives us flexibility for any of the extracurricular programs that a student might attend to lower that amount. If it's not appropriate for that activity.
Okay, and that's the extracurricular or
Yes,
an extra.
or the class.
Class.
So if it's a class, if
No
it's
matter how many or,
not to exceed.
right. Well, but just, I'm fine with that, but when you read it, isn't there a homeschooling organization though that helps with homeschooling or, I know know some homeschoolers and they go do outings and do all these things.
Yes.
So do they not get any help through any of those organizations as far as?
Yeah. I think that, and I,
credit or something, but the way she's talking, it's just all her paying, and I'm just wondering if she knows about this homeschool organization or what.
yeah, there's resources available, and some of these resource providers can charge the Hope Scholarship, and those fees can be, they can't charge the Hope Scholarship, but they can charge the parent.
Exactly.
Who can in turn request reimbursement for those expenses. So it puts us in a similar role. But I think that the point that the lady was making, that in some cases 1/7 might be an excessive charge for the activity.
Sure, I don't have a problem with that. But
So I think if we say a rate not to exceed 1/7 of the annual scholarship amount, and then that'll give Jeff and I the flexibility based upon the activity to
sure.
be able to change the rates. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, so I would recommend that we make that change and then put this back out for 10-day comment again, is once this takes effect, I don't think that we go back. I don't think we try to grandfather anybody in or anything like that. I think it's effective from that date forward, and I think we need to provide parents notice in writing that this policy exists before their kid participates in the event. Because I did have some questions about, okay, well, we've got some students that are actually playing sports right now.
Sure.
And, are we going to go back and charge them how much it's going to be? They've been practicing practicing competing for weeks. So I don't think that's fair to charge now. I think they need to have advance notice.
I agree. So can we approve all of them except that one?
Well,
that one?
if we can take this one separately.
Yeah.
And Randy, does everybody think that language works? A rate not to exceed 1/7 of the annual scholarship amount will be charged for each course and or each extracurricular activity.
Yeah, I think it does.
That gives us the flexibility.
I guess there would always potentially be criticism if you did one thing for Smith and you didn't do the same thing for Jones.
Yeah. Well, I think for the program, that speed stays the same. But I think that there could be a difference in the program. So for example, if you're in our robotics program, we have multiple competitions. Those those students
Right,
travel,
yeah.
shoot, they made it to Houston, Texas to
Yeah.
compete, that type of thing. If you're in the high school academic showcase, they compete at Marshall, and they compete at maybe 2 events the entire year. So I don't think that fee should be as much as the robotics fee, that type of thing. So, but once we set a fee, that fee is in effect for that program.
So you have. to
And
look at
anybody that
each
competes in that
sport-
program.
Each sporting event.
We would
that's
have to
on.
look at each activity separately, I
every-
think, to be fair with it.
Everything we
So all we
do would have to
do,
be
we
documented.
pull it now, put it out for comment, and we have to vote on it.
Yeah, you'd have to approve it. So if you're comfortable with that,
So we can
Well,
just pull 2371.
well, no, we just take it back to 10-day comment
Okay.
with the changes discussed.
Don't require board approval or anything.
To take it to 10-day comment, yeah.
And approve the other.
Is everybody all right with that?
Yeah.
Any concern? So we'll just ask for a motion to take it to 10-day comment with the,
You got it.
with the changes discussed.
Second.
Motion by Dennis and second by Mark
Mark,
to take 2371 back to 10-day comment.
Motion to second by Mark.
10-day. Any questions or concerns about that motion?
No questions, I think it was a good email.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now for the other policies,
23.
Motion.
I've already,
motion by Randy, second.
yeah. Me,
before you vote, I would recommend one more change.
yes,
In 5136, the cell phone policy.
yes,
Okay, if you look at,
Amended.
if you look under cell phone storage, it says upon entering the classroom, students must store their cell phones in designated areas. I'd like to add the term and other personal electronic equipment
yes.
with that.
Did we get a comment on that? I didn't see that.
We did
We
not.
did. I thought we did.
Well, we did. It
But
was,
it
Positive.
it was positive about the policy.
Okay.
So,
And then I think a concern about staff use. Was that in the comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what. So under permitted use, same thing, teachers may allow cell phone use for special educational activities. What I'd like to say is teachers may allow cell phone and other personal electronic equipment use for specific educational activities. Okay, now the reason I bring those up is what we discussed a little bit at the last meeting was these smartwatches and GPS and texting devices and things like that. So if it's anything that falls outside the definition of the cell phone, that gives the school the ability to have the students store it until they're ready to leave for the day.
Probably a good idea, because who knows what they can come up with in the future. That
Yeah.
may be a cell phone.
Those Dick Tracy watches.
this thing will already do anything.
They,
Now,
read it kind of,
the policy
quandary, don't they?
the policy statement already uses the language of other personal electronic equipment, so I don't think it's a significant change. It just makes it more clear.
Or it makes it clear curve.
So that is 5136.
Yes.
As amended, do we need to add them in the?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Put it out for comment.
So it'll be.
No,
as amended.
no, we were talking about the policy statement itself has that exact language in it. It just makes it more clear to include it down in the body. So I don't think it's a significant
As
change.
amended.
$41.20.
So again, we've pulled the 2371.1. That's, we haven't pulled it, but it's going for 10-day comment.
Yeah.
So the vote now is to approve all the other policies, including policy 5136 as amended.
Any questions or concerns on the remaining policies then?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, tell me who made the motion, who
Randy
seconded it?
made the
Randy
motion.
made the motion.
You made the second.
Okay, good. I thought I did, but we've talked so long, I forgot. But go ahead.
All right. Number 4, superintendent seeks authorization to waive the local graduation requirement of the financial literacy for students enrolled in our virtual school.
So we have 3 students who need the financial, they have not completed the financial literacy graduation requirement. That's a local requirement
Right.
as of today.
And it's a good one.
Yeah. In a couple years, it'll be a state graduation requirement, but now it's only a Wayne County Board of Education requirement. So we're doing our virtual program in partnership with Kanawha County Schools. Since it's not a state requirement yet, they don't offer the course. So there's no way for the students to be able to access the course without us going to significant additional expense and effort. So we only have 3 students that need that this year. So I'm requesting permission to waive that requirement for those 3 students.
Second.
Motion by Randy, second by Jonita. Now, if we waive this for these 3 students this year, we're not required to waive it for, say, we get a huge group in the future.
No, and again, when the
This
state
is
requirement
Year
kicks
by
in,
year.
so like in our partnership with Kanawha County on the virtual school,
They don't.
that course will be added
Once it's a
because it's a
requirement.
graduation
Yeah.
requirement.
Okay.
And then the students will
this year,
continue to
right.
take that.
Gotcha. So. All right, any other questions or concerns on the graduation requirement waiving?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Potential items for future agenda.
We discussed at your next meeting will be the balanced scorecard report. And again, that we've went over the assessment results, but that balanced scorecard takes a little bit different shape. It measures, it'll have the graduation rate in there. It'll have CTE completion, all those type of things. So we'll see it at your next meeting.
Can I make a personal request?
Sure.
I would like to have a moment of silence. We lost one of our people.
Yeah.
Eugene
Yes,
Salmons,
we did.
brother of our
Joanne.
Joanne, our board member emeritus, and she's asked for prayers. And
Absolutely.
I think we ought to.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. All right, thank you all. And our condolences out to Joanne, her
You gonna beat her
family.
this time? Randy, you're not permission.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
You got it.
motion by Johnny, second.
I'll make it.
Dennis, sleeping over there.
Yeah, Dennis.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries
joking.
5-0.
I was trying to encourage Randy to
It's
get
got like
it.
this, right?
7:32.
Yeah, yeah. Put my music.
If I would have,
7:32.
if I would have spoke, I would have sprayed you with water.
Okay, if you want to turn
Take a
the
lot.
mics off, we'll stop broadcasting.
That's right.